we're going to get these carbs apart. And I always start with the choke tube first. So we're just going to undo these screws. And we're going to take them off in the exact same order. Adjust my camera. Okay. So we're going to start here with this one. Just going to loosen them up a little. We'll leave the screws in. Okay, and as we take this tube out, just going to push your finger right here. We're going to take these off and just set them on the table here in this order. Okay. This one will always stay on. And we're just going to put them back the way they were on the tube here, so we don't lose them. And you can tell from my last videos I'm real big on not losing these parts, so I put everything back in the order I took them off in. Very important. Okay. We're just going to set that aside. Alright. Now that I got that off, I'm going to bring this to the back side here. We're going to take off this bracket rack. Okay. Set those out. Okay, this rack comes off, or bracket I mean comes off. Same thing, we're just going to set it aside. We're going to take all these screws, set them aside. Now I don't put the screws back in here, but you can. From this point on, I just put the bolts in a pile and go from there. Okay. Now we're going to flip this over. We're going to get this bottom bracket. Tubes out the way. Switch screwdrivers. Yep, that one already fell off. Okay, set this bracket aside. You can see that one already came off, but that's okay. Same thing here when these little springs come out, just set those in a pile as well. There'll be 3 of those. So flip it back over. We're just going to set them apart. You just separate them. Okay, put everything apart. You can see the little springs in here. There'll be 3 springs. We're going to pull these out real quick. There'll be another one right here. Okay. And on the air tubes, we're just going to pull these out. Set those aside. And there'll also be a fuel tube right here. You can set these aside. You just pop these out. Fuel feed, we're going to pull that one out. And this side will have another air tube and the fuel line. Okay. And we'll just set these up just like this on that back side. Okay. So it'll look like that. And then on your piles, I just keep these piles, front bracket, bottom bracket, 3 springs, and you'll have 2 fuel tubes, and I just set these off to the side. Be your fuel line and your air tubes. Now on this tubing, just food for thought. This is aircraft tubing. I get this from Aircraft Spruce. It's ethanol resistant. I know a lot of gases here in Texas, they use a lot of ethanol. So ethanol is really hard on rubber, but it doesn't affect these vinyl tubes. And I buy this by the feet at Aircraft Spruce. It's an aircraft company, and it's good. It's good vinyl. Lasts forever. It's really strong. Holds up well. Okay. All right. We're going to set these aside, and now on my carb breakdowns, I just do one at a time. I don't break down all 4 carbs because I think it's just too many parts and too much stuff to track. I do one at a time. So we're going to break this carburetor down. We're going to set these off to the side, and we're going to get started. I'll usually start with the tops, and then I'll do the choke tube right here. And then I'll start with the bottom side. There'll be an air screw right here. Then I'll take this out. Take that out. And then I'll start on the butterfly, because this is going to be the hardest part, is getting these butterflies out. That's the hardest part. And we'll do the throttle shaft seals. And we'll start from there. Alright. Alright, let's get this started. Okay, I'm going to start with the parts list here real quick. You're going to need like a really small mini screwdriver. You're going to need a 12 millimeter box-in wrench. Pair of needle nose. Obviously a Phillips screwdriver. And now I use hex screws for my butterflies. So you're going to need like I think this is a 2 millimeter Allen key. Now this is very important. Let's see if I can hold this up to camera without blurry. This is a Dremel tool with this style of a cutting bit on it. It's real thin, and it really shears through those metal screws. And that, if you don't have one of these bits, get one. They're really nice. They really cut quick, and they're really sharp. And I'll show you how to do that. Okay. All right, let's get this started. Real simple. We're just going to start with the top. Now these diaphragms in here are from JBM Industries. They are the best. Now if you have a factory that are crimped and they're still in good shape, reuse them. But if they're bad, the company I use to replace these is JBM Industries. And they're really nice, and I'll show you how to reset those as well. There's a little bit of a technique to it. Like I say, this is going to be a 100% build, so we're going to start it from start to finish. Okay, now when you pull this cap off, there's going to be a spring inside here, and then you'll see your diaphragm. So we're just going to pull that spring out, and I'll set my screws in this little holder. I'm going to pull that spring out. This is the diaphragm. Now I've already replaced these diaphragms on here. They're made by JBM's, and I'm going to go ahead and pull this off right now, and I'm going to show you how to do it, because we're going to super glue these down on here. So we're just going to set that in there. Now the original one will have the original diaphragm will have a plastic ring that sets here, and you're just going to take a metal cutter and you're going to cut that ring, but do not cut this lip right here. You have to have that for the new diaphragm. So when you use your cutters, I just use a set of yellow handles, and of course you'll have the rubber diaphragm here, and it'll have a plastic ring sits here on the top, and a plastic ring will sit on the bottom. And it's going to take this, and you'll cut that ring, but do not cut this metal tip. Like I cut it in half, and then I just keep snipping really small, and then you're going to spin it to go to the other side and clip it, and the whole plastic ring is just going to separate. But when you cut these, do not cut this metal ring right here. Don't do it. And then what we'll do, if you can see right here in the camera, this has lettering on the top. This says BS33SS, but it's the same. It'll be number 70. It's either an M or an H70. I'll have to go look at my paperwork, but you'll see that number 70 on there. It'll either be an M or an H. I can't remember right now. But anyway, you want the numbers upward, and you put this on the top. Do not go from the bottom like this. Don't do that. You go straight from the top. You'll feed this on. Okay? And you're going to slide this down to right here. Okay, where it's just setting right there. And what we're going to do is we're going to take super glue, and I use the this is what I use. This is Gorilla Super Glue Gel, and you want to use the gel because it doesn't run. You don't want this thing runny because you don't want that rubber, super glue to go on any part of this rubber. Don't do it. So what I do is I put that gel super glue right here, and what we're going to do is we're just going to slide that up and let it set. You'll see it seat right in here, and then I take that super glue and I'll just put a little piece of it right here. Just make sure it sets because it's going to be permanent. So you can just see it feeding onto the bottom of that lip. You'll see it. Now right in here you'll see a little bit of a gap, but that's okay. Just make sure that that rubber is pushed up against this, and we'll do that here in a second. But I just want to give you a heads up of what we're going to do. But always just make sure that your number lettering is upward. Okay. All right. Now we're going to take our boxing wrench. We're going to pull this choke out of here. You can do a box end or either way. For me, it's easier just use the box end. We're just going to pull this cap off. Now this cap is broke. I don't know if you can see that or not. It broke. So I've got another one I can put in there. It'll be just a two-piece here. It'll be the cap, a little rubber part, and a spring. Now on these little rubber caps, if they're hard and they don't seal up right, I get these from motolab.com. Of course, here's your choke plunger. Same thing here. You want to check the rubber inside here and make sure it's still good. I usually get these off eBay. Usually somebody's selling them. I've got some spares I can switch this out with. I'll just put it back together. So it'll look like that. We'll just set it in the bucket there. Okay. Now, this is a special screwdriver that I've made. You're going to grind the sides off down of this thing, and of course you're going to grind the tip to specially fit for this fuel air screw mixture. And we're just going to screw it out. We have to tap it, get it to come out. Okay. Now as this comes out, there's going to be in a specific order. There'll be a little black rubber gasket. There'll be a little stainless washer, and the little spring, and of course the new needle there. Okay. Now, 99% of the time, that washer is going to get stuck on the bottom inside here. And all you do is you're going to take a little paper clip, bend it, and just put a little edge on the paper clip. You're going to have to kind of fish that washer out of there. And what I do is I'll take a flashlight. This is a Streamlight. Streamlight stylus. And I'll just shine in there, and because you're going to be able to fish that gasket out of that little O-ring. A lot of times that thing will get smashed on the bottom and won't want to come out. So you can just shine your light, use a little paper clip to go in there and dig it out. Okay? Now right here on the back side is going to be our air jet. We're just going to screw this out. And now this is a factory. I'll go over the numbers, but this is a number 140 air jet. But I'll go over all those numbers when we put it back together. I'm just giving you a little heads up. We'll put it in the bucket there. And this I'll go ahead and put back together. So it'll be a spring, stainless washer, and then a little O-ring. So it'll look like that. Alright? I'll stick it in the bucket. So we got our air jet out. Got our choke out. Now, I'm going to start with the throttle shaft. So we're going to take a little small screwdriver, pop this C-clamp off. There'll be a plastic washer. There should be. If there's not, you're in trouble. A little plastic washer. Throw it in there. Now, here's where the fun begins. On a factory butterfly, we're going to pop this open, and if those screws in here are peened, that means they're smashed in. We're going to have to grind these down. So I'm going to go ahead and assume that this is factory. Of course, it's not, but I'm going to go assume that it is. We're going to put our little tool in there, a little blocker. I'm going to grab your little tool that I made, a little protector, stick it in here. Okay, we're going to keep holding it open. And you can see our screws are still in there. And what we're going to do is we're going to take this Dremel tool, and we're going to grind that screw down in here. Now be very careful. Now what I do is I kind of hold this off to the side with two hands. If you got I'll use my finger here to brace it, because if you're just using this tool to do this, it's going to slip out from under you. So I have to brace it. And I made this a little bit longer so that I can put that tool against this metal, so I can go in here and grind this in. So we just do our Dremel tool, and you'll sit in here and just grind this down a little at a time, just very little. Don't go in there and try to grind it like a wild person, but just go in there and just lightly grind this off. When it's flat, you'll see it flat. You're going to pull this tool around. Get out of there. Flip this around to this side. Put your protector back in there. Okay. And you're going to grind the other side. Alright. You'll sit there and just buzz this down to where it's flat, and you can see, just keep looking in there, it'll be flat. So once your screws are flat, then we can get this thing out of here. Okay. So we're going to take our, this particular one, I use Allen key. We're just going to pop these out. Most of the factory ones, the ones I've seen, are all Phillips head. So when I put these back in, I use the Allen screws because I can get a little bit more torque on them. And I'll use blue Loctite. Do not use red. Use either blue or purple. I prefer the blue. If you put red in there, it is almost impossible to get out. If they use red and you cannot heat this up to get that red out, you're going to have to drill it. And you don't want to do that because you don't want to drill that out if you don't have to. And I know one time I had to do it because they had red on there, and I just could not heat that up high enough to get it out without warping the butterfly. So the only thing you do in that case is you just drill it. And of course you're going to have to drill through the threads, But when you put these screws back in, you'll use the nut on the back side instead of having a thread, because if you have to drill through these threads, you can't re-thread it. I wouldn't do it, but best thing to do is just use these long screws like this. I get these at Ace Hardware. They're real cheap, and you can buy the nuts to fit on the back side, and you'd lock tight the nut back down. I've got them in case I need them. I have used this. These are stainless. You can either use the stainless or the black screws. Either one that works great. I think these are 2mm. Okay, now we got our screws out. So now you can see we have a moving shaft there. Now here's the thing. On these carburetors that have the nuts on them on this side, sometimes it happens, sometimes it don't. But when you're gonna have to hold this with a pair of pliers and get this nut off. Sometimes that shaft inside here will twist, and that butterfly will be real tight coming out. If it's tight coming out, don't force it, because you don't want to scratch this butterfly. So if that's the case, now this one's going to pull straight out because it's just a C-clamp. But these ones that have a nut on there, if that shaft twists, you're going to pop this open. And do not use pliers on this. Don't pull it out with pliers. If that's hard to get out, what I do is I'll put this in a vise, and you just take a wrench over on this side and hold this, and you're just going to keep working it just a little bit back and forth until this comes out by hand. Do not use pliers on this. We can't scratch this up. You can't mar this edge right here. This edge is like a knife finish. It's really sharp, and it's angled to a degree because this sits at an angle. Do not use pliers pulling that out. Use your fingers. So what I'll do is I'll set this side in the vise, and on this metal piece I'll use pliers and just kind of wiggle it to get it to break free to pull this out. Okay, now on this particular one, it just has the C-clamp, so you can just pull straight out. So we're going to reach in, grab it. Now sometimes one side will go higher than the other. Just keep working at it till it pulls out with your fingers. Okay, like that. Do not use pliers on these. Don't do it. Okay, now that that shaft's out, we're just going to pull this straight out. Okay, now each carburetor is set up a certain way, and I'm going to set this down exactly like this. This is going to be face up, and this shaft is going to sit right here on this side because it's going to be going back in the same way. Now if we pull this spring off, you can see the spring hooks right here. We're just going to twist it, get it to come off. And always be careful of what your washers are. There'll be a thick washer, thin washer on this side. And just make sure it's there before you put it all back together. Alright. Now, I always put my stuff back together here. And I'm going to set it down. Okay. That's exactly how it's going to go back in, just like this. And if you see right here, these will be your throttle shaft washers here. And these just pop straight out. Now these are brand new. And these are just a little throttle washers. These are very, very important because if these break, if these fail, air will get inside that and it'll cause it to run a high idle. These are brand new. When you pull these out, see how squishy that is? These are brand new. I've pulled some out. They're hard as a rock. You can't even bend it. Okay. Now another thing about these washers, I don't know if you can see that in the camera. I'll try to get close. One side is flat, and the other side has a little bevel to it. It's like an inside little bevel, and it's going to go in with the flat side to the bottom. So that flat side to the bottom, and they call this a little V shape. The little V shape is going to go to the top. So just make sure that that's flat side. Goes back in. Your little V side, the little V shape, goes to the top. Same thing on this side. You're just going to pop it out and make sure that it's in correctly. Do not put these in backwards. Make sure it's squishy. The flat side of that washer, the flat side goes down. The V shape, little hollow shape V side right here goes up. Make sure it's very important you do that. I'm just going to stick those back in. So it look like that. Flat side down, flat side inward. A little V shape going upward. Okay? Now we're going to get to our carb bowl here. Put the butterflies in there. Butterfly in there. Okay, we're going to pop this off. And kind of like how I got my my table set up is I do one carburetor at a time. I don't pull all four apart. It's kind of ridiculous. It's something I don't do. Outside carburetors, I put out parts I put out here. The inside of the carburetor parts I put in here. Of course, you know, these are the outside, but anything to do with this carburetor, I put right in there. Okay. Okay, I'm just going to pry this up. Gasket's going to come out. Yeah, gaskets will usually hang right here. We'll just kind of wiggle it to get it to come off. Some of these old ones will stick, and you just take I just take a little Dremel tool brush, a wire brush, and you'll just just go around the edge, clean this up a little. A lot of them old gaskets will stick here. The factory gaskets will stick. They'll stick like glue, and when you actually pry it up, it'll peel apart. So I really like these aftermarket gaskets. They don't stick, and they're really good. And this was actually the Chinese manufacturer. These are pretty good gaskets. I've never had one fail on me, and they don't stick after a few years. They don't stick, so they're good. Alrighty. Now we get to the good stuff. Alright, here's our little float, little pin. We got our two jets sitting in here. Like I say, this is a specially cut ground screwdriver. Mikuni does make drivers specifically to these, but I don't. I just take a little screwdriver, I grind the sides, and then of course I'll grind the tip to match inside here. So do not strip this one out. These are hard to get to and they're hard to drill out. Do not strip them. Don't put them in tight. You just a little finger tight. When you put them back in, it'll just slide out. And on this particular one, there should be a number 35 because I use Mikuni jets specifically. I don't use aftermarket anything. I use Mikuni specifics on these. And this will be a number 35, and I'll explain that when I put everything back together. On the jet, of course, you're going to use a big wide one. Okay, that'll pop out. It'll come out with a jet and a little washer. Now on Mikuni jets will be stamped on the top here. This one says 105. Aftermarket jets will be on the side here. Okay, it'll be on the side. Aftermarket, non-Chinese. Okay, so Mikuni specifically will have the number on top. Aftermarket will be on the side. Of course, some of the Chinese are blank, and I don't use them. I use Mikuni specifics on these. Okay. Now here's where people usually end up breaking these posts, is getting this pin out. What I use is usually the post will break right here, because a lot of times people try to hammer these out, and they'll end up breaking these posts. So what I do is I modify the pin a little bit. I'll shave a little bit off the back end, and so that this ice pick hits that directly onward. And what people are breaking these posts are, they're hitting the post right here and snapping it. They usually snap right here at that weak spot. You can see where it's cut out a little bit, and those posts usually snap right here. And there's two techniques to put that post back on, and I'll show you when I put it back together. The one that's broken on this one, we're just going to safety wire it back on, and I'll show you why. But a lot of times when these posts break, it'll be at this point right here. So all I do, what I do is I modify this pin a little, and I'll shave just a little bit on the bottom, because if that pin pushes all the way through, it sticks out and it's hard to hit it. But if that pin's inside just a hair, then this ice pick can't go off center because it's already inside the slot. Okay. So all I do is I just take it, I'll hold it and just tap it. Okay. The pin comes out. And now what I do is I just take a little Dremel tool and I just sand this down just a little bit, just do a little bit at a time, to where this pin is just inside that slot. Because what happens is the people break these posts, that pin sticks out a little, and they try to center in on that, and they miss, and the punch will hit this part and break it. A lot of people use a punch to get that out. I don't. I use an ice pick and just a light tap of a screwdriver handle. Just barely tap these out, because when that pin sticks out, it's hard to hit center on that, and people slip and they'll bust that post off. Okay. So then our float comes up, our little needle comes out, and this will have a screw right here, a little Phillips head. And this will come out. And it'll have a little retainer clip. Now, what I do here is I take my needle nose, and you can either do the outside or the inside. I try not to do the inside to grip it like this. Try to do the outside if you can, and you'll pull this out. I'm going to go ahead and do the inside because it's brand new. I see a lot of people pull it this way, and what it does, it burrs the inside of that, and if you're going to throw them away and use new ones, then it doesn't matter. But I'm going to reuse this one. So try not to grip like this. Try to grip them like this. From the outside, try not to do it like that. Okay? This is brand new. Now this is a K&L. And if you look on the side right here, it'll have a 2.3. Always look for that 2.3 on a K&L Nealon seats. Okay? Now when I pull that jet out, we're going to pull the emulsion tube out right here. I just pulled this out to show you. But what we're going to do is we'll put this back in just a little bit without the washer. You don't need that washer on there. So we're going to put the jet back in just a little bit, a few turns, nothing fancy. Just put in a few turns, maybe three threads, and we're just going to tap it. Okay? And we're going to take it back out. You don't want to push it all the way in. Just tap it so your jet comes out. And we're going to push this emulsion tube the rest of the way. Now I use my little Allen key. We're just going to push it. It's going to pop out the bottom. Right there. Now this thing is slotted. It'll have a little slot right here. And when that slot, we put it back in, you'll see a little pin right here. And inside here will be a slot. So when it comes back, we're going to put it back up through the bottom. And that slot will hit this spot right here. Okay? Now on this one, if you look right here, and this is Mikuni, right here will be stamped in 318 Y-2. Make sure that these go back in, because I have pulled some carburetors apart that have different numbers in there. Just make sure it's 318 Y-2. And I'll have a list of that as well. And the only thing we do on this is these really fine holes right here. I don't know if the camera can show it. Yeah. There'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There'll be 5 across, and it'll be in 4 spots. So 1, 2, 3, 4. A lot of times when a carburetor gets clogged up, these holes will be clogged up. And you just take your, I've got a K&L little file, hole file, and just put them in there and spray them down. Put them in your ultrasonic cleaner. But just make sure that these are what you use your K&L wires, popping these little small holes, because that's your emulsion tube. Gasoline needs to go through those holes. On the old ones, if you got an old carburetor, these will 99% of the time they'll be clogged up. But make sure that they're real clean. Put them in your ultrasonic cleaner, clean them up. Okay? And that is the end of the carburetor clean. Put these in your ultrasonic cleaner, or you can, if you don't have one, you can just use brake fluid, spray through all these holes. You know, you can do it. You can do it by hand. Just that's your choke tube. You'll see a little hole inside there. Okay, that goes right into this tube here. I usually stick the red nozzle inside that and just spray through this tube, because a lot of times this has the same thing. It'll have tubes in here, and it'll have a little hole there. So you same thing. You use your little K&L wire gauge, stick those wires in there, and clean these holes out. These are a lot of times these get clogged up in front of your choke line. And that's it. You'll spray everything down, put it in your ultrasonic cleaner, get them all cleaned up, and ready for build up again. All right, I'm gonna pause this for now, and we'll get ready for the build up.